What up, Raffalitos? Welcome back to my channel. We are back at Railroad. So this is Railway Road in, what is it, Sheriff Street and Sheriff Street and Railway Road. On the other side of Sheriff Street, that's the Sheriff Medical Center in Sobrianville. And this is the traffic circle, one of the many traffic circles here in Georgetown. It seems as if we've decided traffic circles are the identifying trait of traffic in Guyana, of the road network in Guyana. So this is Sheriff Street traffic circle. Across the street, that is the Guy Oil service station. Guy Oil service station. But why we're here is we want to take a look at what's happening with this railway road. So the last time we were here, there was a large pile of sand all along the shoulder of the road because the government of Guyana had made a decision. Morning.
Distance 3 miles. Duration 54 minutes 59 seconds. Pace 22 minutes 50 seconds per mile.
So the government of Guyana had made the decision to widen the railway road. But let me talk about this traffic circle a little more before I continue. So this traffic circle is at the intersection of the railway road and Sheriff Street. So if you look straight ahead in the distance, that's railway road continued. So all along, you can see a line of street lights. See that line of street lights? It goes all the way down to Lamaha Street. And earlier this week, in fact, yesterday, I showed you a part of Lamaha Street where they had built, or this railway road rather, part of this railway road where they had built a park. These what I call vest pocket parks because of their tiny um, existence. They're very small parks in the middle of the railway road. Now that railway road, which is now a railway, it was in fact a railroad. It was a railway, and that now has been converted into a road. The whole point of that, my discussion about the railway, is that this railway road should be restored to a railway, into a metro line that connects Georgetown with the, the East Coast. This traffic circle was placed here because the railway road intersected with Sheriff Street. So Sheriff Street runs north south, and so that's Sheriff Street running north south. There's a small cemetery here at this intersection. And these are tombs. It's a small cemetery here at this intersection. But the railway road, which in fact was a railway, ran straight across Sheriff Street. Right, ran straight across Sheriff Street. And since they converted it into a road, this was a, what was it, 5-way intersection. Because across, between Sheriff Street and the continuation of the railway line was David Street. So that's David Street that runs through Kitty in Sobrianville. The point I'm making about this traffic circle is that it seems to be a universal solution, but in fact, it is a poor solution for high volume traffic. So if you come here at, say, 8 a.m., it's now about 6:30 in the morning. But if you come here at 8:30 a.m., you'll see a traffic jam because it creates a bottleneck. You have all of these roads, right, north and south on Sherry Street, and then you have this east west because the railway road turns east here at this intersection. So you have 5 lanes of traffic of, well, at least five, probably more, 7 or 8 lanes of traffic converging into one at the traffic circle, and that creates a bottleneck and the traffic congestion. Why do we need a traffic circle at this intersection? It is not necessarily the best solution. What you need is a flyover, you need an overpass. So this part of the railway should have been turned into a ramp that eventually flies over Sheriff Street. Now, I was here before they built this traffic circle. So I know that this was a dangerous intersection because of all of the traffic converging. But I assume that some right thinking person would decide that the best solution would be to build a flyover with exits. So if you wanted to get onto Sheriff Street, you could exit, north or south. And if you wanted to go straight down Railway Road, you would fly over Sheriff Street, or you could turn off of Railway and get onto to David Street. So that for me was the logical solution. But in Guyana, logic does not work. The point is that my belief is that these traffic circles are more a problem than a solution, and they probably need to be demolished and rebuilt as flyovers, or they need to have an additional flyover so that you have the option of going through the traffic circle or just passing straight over the intersection. But back to the railway embankment road. So what they're doing here is widening this railway road into a 4 lane highway. And the last time we were here, they had turned this shoulder into a pile of white sand. But what they've done now is they have spread the white sand into the bottom of this canal, this trench, and they have now turned the bottom of the trench into a concrete. You can see from this point on, it's a concrete uh, bottom. And now the next thing is to create these drains. The drains will be narrower than the trench that they replace, but that's the whole point, to get some real estate to widen the road. And I suppose they're going to do the same thing on both sides of the railway road. So it's approaching 7 o'clock in the morning, and this traffic is beginning to pick up. So if you look straight down, that's traffic coming from the east coast, from Pleasance and good for Wacton, and points further east, Monrepo and LBI, and all those points further east, probably as far as New Amsterdam. And all of this traffic converges at the traffic circle here in at Sheriff Street. So all of this traffic converges at Sheriff Street, and eventually what you get is a traffic jam. Now, what the government has done in recent times is to turn this road into a one-way heading east. Heading west. They've turned this road into a one-way road heading west on weekday mornings, so that they could accommodate the large volume of traffic coming off of the east coast and heading into Georgetown. That still hasn't solved the problem, and so they're widening this road into a 4 lane highway. 4 lane highway is just a main road. It's just a name. A highway is just a name for a main road. I have people arguing with me in the comments about whether Guyana has highways and whether they can call these roads highways. Any road that connects two villages or two cities or two towns is a highway. That's the definition, that's the dictionary definition. So this is going to be a main highway, a main road, and it's now being proposed as a solution to the volume of traffic coming off the East Coast. But I've always argued that the way you handle this volume of traffic coming off the East Coast is to provide an alternative traffic, an alternative means of transportation. That means building back the railway. And so hopefully some future government will understand that the solution to this traffic problem and traffic jam, the continuing growth of traffic and traffic congestion, is not necessarily to continue widening the roads, but to build back the railway. Now, at this point, it's going to have to be an elevated train. You're going to have to build this train high up above the ground, above the road, because the road is now occupying the railway uh, dam, what used to be the railway dam. The road now occupies it, but the solution is still to put back the railway line here, and the only way to do that now is to elevate it above the road so that you could probably put stations along the east coast, but about 20 feet or 30 feet high above the road, and then you can run a light rail, a monorail, or something quick and efficient for local and long distance transit. In other words, you have enough lines to take you all the way to Berbice, maybe Corriverton, and you have local lines that take you around the neighboring cities or villages. These guys are showing up for work here on the railway embankment, railway road, to widen it. As you can see, they started to put in the retaining walls. Right, these guys have started to put in the retaining walls, and these guys are showing up for work to do that today. Morning. So this is probably going to be the current temporary solution, widening of the railway road. So you can see they've already built a portion of the drain here, putting in the retaining walls. Seems rather narrow, as a matter of fact. I think what they might be doing is covering it with drain covers and turning those drain covers into sidewalks, as is now the solution apparently to building sidewalks in Guyana everywhere. Everywhere sidewalks are drain covers. But yeah, these guys are now showing up for work and starting to build this drain. Seems rather narrow, but then that explains why. Morning. Yeah, that explains why they're using drain covers. Morning. Seems to be quite a few Chinese engineers on site here, which means this is probably being done. This is contract work for a Chinese firm, most likely. Right? A lot of these guys are Chinese contractors. Well, like I said in the previous video, you're more likely to get good work from Chinese contractors than you would from local construction crew, and therefore that is definitely not a complaint. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to see that they're experienced engineers at work here. But this is what's happening here at the railway road embankment construction. For a long time, if you notice in the previous videos, there were piles of sand stretching for miles along the railway embankment. I think I've done previous videos that have shown this pile of sand going all the way to the convention center, which is about another half of a mile east of where we are right now. As we come up to this intersection, this is the Conversation Tree Road. All right, this Conversation Tree Road is now completed, and I guess that's what allows them to start working on the railway road. So this is where we are. This is what has been completed so far. They're now building out the drains. We're looking in the direction from which we've come, that is towards Sheriff Street. And you can see that they're going to gain at least 2 lanes, I think, 2 additional lanes for the road by building out this shoulder. Now it continues on the other side.